So, I wanted to talk about another comic book character today, and also perhaps one of my favorite TV shows ever, featuring none other than that same character. His name is John Constantine, and he starred in the TV show Constantine, and he is a nasty piece of work, let me tell you. John Constantine hails theoretically from the DC universe. He somehow cohabitates the same plane of existence as Batman and Superman. Um, and originally, to my knowledge, John Constantine was came into being because an artist wanted to draw Sting, the legendary musical artist, and then they built a scruffy asshole magician around that character. And Constantine, like Sting, is this strange, well-read, mystically inclined individual with interests in folklore and magic and the occult. But unlike Sting, um, he's a poor, filthy, selfish rat bastard with magical talents that are a bit more pronounced than those of the great singer. I'm not brave enough to outright deny Sting's potential for secretly being some incredible sorcerer, but I will say that Constantine seems to be something of a much more overt and powerful magical practitioner uh, in this instance. Constantine is a traveling exorcist. Among other things, he is a working class magician, as I believe it was Alan Moore identified him. He's this guy who gets by with parlor tricks and lies and no small amount of fancy warlock bullcrap. Um, he's unlike most magicians, most wizard characters. He is poor and he's a bit rude and crass, and he's not this wealthy, high class, esoteric occultist. Nor is he particularly a nice guy. He's a jerk, but he's a really charming jerk, especially when he's written well. And he always has a clever thing to say, and he does try to do good in the world. But he's not above screwing people over uh, for for the greater good, shall we say, and also for his own survival, which is, I think, the most important part of the character. The fact that he's the survivor. He's like a cockroach. He always gets by, um, eh, while doing uh, sometimes minimal work. Uh, if he can lie and cheat and scam his way out of a confrontation, he will. Um, and that is where he slightly differs from the TV show character. I mean, look, the TV show is close to being a perfect show, at least in terms of just being a fun thing to watch. It only got one season, and honestly, I don't know why. Matt Ryan, our leading man, he is John Constantine. He is very good at playing the character. So much so that he keeps getting work as that character. So that's fun. He plays a slightly more sympathetic and altruistic version of the character. Um, Nevertheless, I think it is a very fascinating show to watch, and it is chock full of not the most occult stuff you've ever seen, but it's all fairly normy, you might say. Werewolves and vampires, and even the odd witch or two. Not to mention demons and fallen angels and the like. Whereas the original comics, they wound up being written by actual real world occultists, so the comics take things a little bit more seriously than I think the show ever did. Nevertheless, the show is like some serious comfort food for me. It's just really fun, and you've got all these fun characters he runs into. The feedback loop, the typical adventure, you might say, is pretty accurate to the comics as well. Uh, the Generally an episode plays out, even though Constantine is a little more altruistic in the show. I'd say it's fairly accurate that even in the comics, Constantine, he inevitably shows up somewhere. A ghost town, a weird city, a bar, and he meets up with an old friend, and they wind up having to deal with a fallen angel or a demon or an undead sorcerer, some great evil that is trying to hurt people. And in order to seal away this great evil, or even like sometimes he even has to divert them or appease them or destroy them, he generally has to sacrifice his friend in order to do that. He will lie to his friends, he will cheat them, he will trick them, or sometimes he will actually just convince them to accept their own death or a fate worse than death, something to defeat this great evil. And almost always, Constantine will get away scot free. He will suffer very few consequences for his actions because Constantine is an ass. He screws over everyone around him, and there's always a lesson to be learned. He does learn his lesson, sort of. He's not invulnerable to character growth, but I will say that the show, it gives him a much more complex, a much more noticeable arc, uh, than say the comics, who play things a bit more subtle. He's he remains an ass for a much longer period of time, and lessons uh he learns his lessons at a very slow rate, which is not to knock the comic book character, don't get me wrong. It's just they're presenting a very different uh they're presenting him in a very different light, shall we say. And I will say about the show, though it is incredible, I cannot fathom how it got canceled. It was canceled, and I don't really know why. It was probably costs too much to make, what with all the angels and demons and flashing lights and all. Uh, I will also say that the leading lady of most of the show isn't the best. She's fine, but her chemistry with John is fairly weak, I think. It's not great. I I don't really think it's entirely her fault either. It could have been a script thing, but nevertheless, it's noticeable. Uh, and nevertheless, John is just an amazing character who the performance of Matt Ryan in the role is incredible, and he's a very compelling character. Even on paper, he's just a very good character to see in action. He's like John Constantine is a little like Doctor Strange from the Marvel Universe, if Doctor Strange was a drug addicted, hard drinking, hard smoking uh, British wanker, who is not the best magician around. He kind of sucks actually, but John, he's really clever, and he will outsmart the more powerful and knowledgeable magicians around him, and he will outsmart demons and angels and anyone who stands in his way, really. And he will eat them alive because he's this smarmy, clever, mean spirited little survivor, who is nevertheless something of an anti hero. He does try to help people every once in a while. But I mean, still through the lens of this scummy, dirty, drug-addicted magician. Uh, but other than all of that, he's exactly like Doctor Strange. Um, but seriously, Constantine's the guy. I mean, he is. He's possibly my favorite character from the DC universe. So there's that. But you know, he's arguably not even a proper DC character. There's Vertigo comics, and it's a whole tangled mess. And DC proper treats the character very differently than his original appearances. But I digress. So, yeah, that is John Constantine and the Constantine TV show. Now, sawed off, you wankers.